and gentlemen, boys and girls, he is 7-0 in the NBA Finals. But that's not it. That's not the dream. The dream came true in 2012 when you got the job of a lifetime sitting next to me, talking about your Los Angeles Lakers, and a couple of Emmys would follow. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I give you Robert Keith Horry. Big shot, Bob. Now you can sit down.
Hey, I definitely...
Yeah, let's pick up your mic there, Rob. By the way, any Clipper fans except for YB and Celtics fans, get out of here.
Yeah.
Before we kick it off, big shout out to the North Grill at California Surf Club. Ocean views, fire pits, cold drinks, and vibes for days. Come hungry, leave salty. Let's go.
This is nice, by the way, having you here. I just want to make you feel comfortable one time, so they're all going to chant something with me. Just one time on 3. Kids, earmuffs. Danny Ainge. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're starting now. Everybody feels comfortable. Everybody feels comfortable.
I'm sure he plays video games.
He plays video games. He knows
the
kids today. We're going to get into that story later. But what do you think of the California Surf Club? I know you met Alan, you met CB, you met a lot of people already. But I just want to get your thoughts as you walked around here and you ate a nice salad.
Man, I wish I lived closer. I'd become a member. I don't surf though. I'm scared of.
I was just going to ask you, have you ever surfed?
And it ain't because I'm black. I can. You know that. It's that mystique out there that we don't.
Yeah.
Like. Well, I was a lifeguard, believe it or not, in high school.
Hold on, I'm leaving. You were not a lifeguard.
I was a lifeguard. I never told you that story?
No.
Yeah, I was a lifeguard in high school. I actually taught kids how to swim.
I had no idea.
I could teach a kid how to swim in 3 days.
Really?
Yes.
But you never surfed in your life?
No. Why would I want to surf? I'm black.
I got to ask you this. What's the first time you ever ran on the beach?
With this guy here. It was, we were
2013.
Rocky and Apollo.
We were Rocky and Apollo up on that beach.
Like when I first came to work for Spectrum, I used to stay right over here in El Segundo because it was close to the studio. And he's like, man, we got to go down to the beach and run. You never ran on the beach? I'm like, no. So we come down, we on the beach and we running. I'm feeling good, got sand in my toes and everything. I'm like, I enjoyed it. So,
I just couldn't believe it was the first time you'd ever run on the beach. But then you came home and my little daughter Luke at the time was 2 years old and the people that were babysitting her said, your dad's out with Big Shot. And she thought, they said Big Shoes because you had a size 17 in there. So your nickname became Big Shoes.
Yeah,
but,
that's my new nickname.
Rob has been my friend for a long, long time. I'd love to jump into a little bit of your early life, like growing up in the South, growing up in Alabama, and just what that was like.
We don't have enough time for that. But and the thing about it is I had a great childhood. My father was former military. My mom was a teacher, so it's not like I grew up with like a lot of these stories of hard times and stuff like this. I had an older brother who kind of led me down the path to play basketball because I was a straight baseball player. I didn't play basketball because I was tall and awkward. I was like a baby giraffe, couldn't walk and talk and chew bubblegum at the same time. But eventually, if you are a competitor, you don't like losing, and so next thing you know, I became pretty good at basketball and became
What position were you in Little League?
I pitched first base and center field.
Biggest guy on the field.
Oh, yeah. I always come with it, too. My strategy in baseball was if you was a first hitter, you was getting hit by me. Hey, and the funny part is I found that out by mistake one time because my cousin was on a different team, and I hated brand new baseballs because they were too slick. And my first pitch one time hit him upside the head, goes outside the thing, and after that, every time I got ready to throw it, everybody was jumping. So after that, I was like, I'm coming at everybody I know. And so, yeah.
When did you first know you loved basketball? Like, when did you fall in love with it?
I fell in love with basketball my 8th grade year. Yeah. Right before I got to high school, my friend Derek, who tragically passed away, he and I were the best players on our middle school team. And I remember my middle coach, he used to say, his name was Louis Berry. He'd be like, nobody shoot the ball but Derek and Robert. Derek, you're second. Robert, you always shoot the ball. And it was like, and I thought that was not fair. And I was like, why am I getting all the shots? He's like, and I was always the ultimate team player. I just want I'd rather sacrifice my game if we're gonna win in order to everybody else to have fun. And that just didn't sit right with me. But hey, it does feel good to get all the shots, though. I ain't gonna lie.
You ain't gonna lie. And by the way, you did pretty well because you were Mr. Basketball in the state of Alabama, which earned you a full scholarship to play for Alabama. Yep. Crimson Tide, legendary coach, Wimp Sanderson. Wimp Sanderson. You also played with other NBA guys. Latrell Sprewell comes to mind. What were those years like for you at University of Alabama?
I never thought I would play for Alabama. Growing up, I actually wanted to go to Georgia Tech. Because if anybody know anything about Alabama, you probably say, they got a basketball team? You know, it's straight football. And my high school was a straight football school, even though they got beat all the time and we would always go to the state tournament. I wanted to go somewhere where they love basketball. So I was like, ACC, Georgia Tech, Bobby Crimmins. Think about this, the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech. Don't that sound so great?
That's so nice.
Instead of Roll Tide. So I wanted to go there, but you know, then signing day comes and I look at my mama and my mama says, if you sign with Georgia Tech, I'm never coming to visit you. Alabama it is. So I signed.
That's why you went to Alabama.
That's why I went to Alabama. I signed with Alabama. But I had a great time there. You know, and they always do these little polls sometimes, like, and they go down a list of teams. You says, how did this team not win a national championship? And we were on, I think, one poll we were number 10 because my senior year, this was our starting lineup, my senior year, for one game. And after this one game, we averaged we scored like 100 points, but we had like 17 turnovers. So this was a starting lineup. James Robinson, I don't know if any of y'all remember him. He played with the Clippers and Portland Trailblazers. He started at the point. Latrell Sprewell, I know y'all know him because he'll choke you if you don't. Latrell Sprewell started at the 2. I started at the 3. Jason Caffey, I don't know if any of y'all know him. He played with the Chicago Bulls. He started at the 4.
So 4 NBA guys.
And then the 5th guy was a guy by the name of Roy Rogers, who played with the Vancouver Grizzlies. Wow. That was our starting 5 right there, 5 pros. And sometimes they go down the list and says, why did y'all not win a national championship with that starting team? You want to know why? Because we got beat by North Carolina, who actually won the national championship.
Who won the national
championship.
And
they had 7 pros on their team.
That was a good team,
That was a really good team.
Was that the Chris Webber timeout?
That was the Chris Webber timeout.
I was just going to say, when did you and Spree and the other guys as well, I mean, you and Spree especially because you guys were first rounders, at what point, Rob, did you feel like, man, I can play in that league, I can make a living in that league, and I can be a part of the NBA?
I think for me, the biggest key was, I don't know if any of y'all remember a guy by the name of Derek McGee. He's probably known as one of the best players to play at Alabama, and he would come back to Alabama every summer. And he was like, you're guarding me because nobody else can guard me. And there were some games where I would kind of contain him just a little bit. So I thought that's when I said, okay, if I get stronger and I get better, I can go to the next level. So after we talked about this, I don't know if we're going to touch on it, but my sophomore year, we lose in the Sweet 16 to Loyola Marymount. And so that summer, we all work out, and then before the season starts, they come out with this rankings, and they listed me as a top 10 small forward in the country. I'm like, oh, I'm a top 10 as a sophomore going into my junior year? And I was like, oh, this might be a career for me because I never thought about the NBA. Wow. And it goes, I'm just show you how you don't think about the NBA. So my first 2 years at Alabama, I was an honor roll student. Those next 2 years after I got ranked, it was like when you working on your craft, it's like 80-20. 80% education, 20% basketball. And when that ranking came out, that flipped really quick. It became 20% studying and 80% basketball. My whole thing changed. I was in the gym. I said, I got to get stronger, even though it didn't work. I tried to get stronger. I just worked on my craft. And next thing you know, I'm getting drafted number 11 by the Houston Rockets.
So, by the way, Rob, my daughter Millie's here, and we all know she's going to SC, but she's got another year of high school. She still has to do school, right? Can you please pass that message?
Millie, where are you?
Yeah, she's back there
somewhere. Millie, keep studying because it's going to pay off. Trust me, it's going to pay off.
Thank you for that.
It's going to make SC a lot easier.
Appreciate that. Now, you were drafted 11.
Yes.
And by the way, Shaquille O'Neal was drafted number 1 in that draft. Do you remember who was drafted 10 right in front of you and who was drafted right behind you?
Yes, I remember 10, man. Why not? Number 10 was the guy out of Stanford by the name of Adam.
How many people know Adam Keefe around here? Yeah, Adam Keefe's got a lot of friends.
Hey, I love Adam Keefe, but I hate him too.
Why?
Oh, so this is how long ago I was drafted. Now when you get drafted, you automatically know you're slotted what you're going to make. Back then, whoever was number 1, it was called a trickle-down effect. You think about Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq.
So he going to make crazy bank, right? So we all waiting for him to sign. And all of a sudden, I'm working out, and I get a call from my agent. And my agent says, I got some good news, I got some bad news. She's like, what? He said, the good news, the Rockets are ready to sign the contract. I'm like, okay, yeah. He said, what's the bad news? Adam Keefe signed. I'm like, you mother! I'm like, because if Adam Key signed at number 10, I'll tell you how much he made. He signed for $1 million. You know, I think Adam in his mind, if he goes back, he would probably do it over because he's like, wow, $1 million. I'm signing. No, dude, we waiting on Shaq to sign, who's gonna probably sign for like $8 million, and the next guy gets 7.65. Now, so, and of course, when I told the Houston Rockets, I'm like, I'm not signing for $1 million. I'm better than that. And they're like, well, we can't pay you more than we paying the number 10 pick. Excuse me. I just kicked his ass in the NCAA tournament. I'm better than him. I should make more than him. Like, nope. And so I had to sign for $1 less than Adam Key.
And they are still friends to this day, by the way, which is awesome. And we love Kifo. That's great. So, by the way, Harold Miner.
Great guy. Adam Key, great guy.
Harold Miner went number 12.
Yeah, Harold Miner went number 12.
Yeah, Harold Miner.
So here's the crazy part about that. So when you hit the draft, this was the first time the draft was held outside of New York. It was held in Portland because this was a year that they brought in the dream team. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that because I had one goal coming out of college, and that was to be on the Olympic team. And of course, they crushed those dreams by putting on the dream team.
Yeah, or so, been on that team.
All right, so we were in Portland, and the guys on the cameraman, like this cameraman know who's gonna get drafted, right? So they all over by Harold Miner and guy from UCLA, Tracy Murray.
So
they all got the cameras by them, like, okay, the Houston Rockets get ready to pick. And all of a sudden, it was funny because I was just coming back from the bathroom, so I was hanging out with Doug Christie in the corner, right? And so when I went to the draft, I went alone. I'm probably the only player ever to go to the draft alone. And the reason I went alone because my dad had just had neck surgery. My mom from Alabama, she just scared to fly. My best friend couldn't get out his previous commitment, and I had just broke up with my girlfriend. So I had nobody.
Which, by the way, wasn't dumb. That was smart. Sorry, it's just being.
Hey, I'm about to make some money. I'm breaking up with you. I might find me a spot.
I'm making $999.
And then my agent was living in New York, so I was like, you don't have to come all the way from Portland, New York. That's a long flight. So, and all of a sudden, all the guys on camera was like, it was funny. So excuse me again. They were like, oh shit. And so they get up and they run towards me. And if you watch, I'm literally standing there. I'm standing there with Doug Christie, Lil Wilcox, who works for the NBA, long-time lifer there, and then Doug Christie's mom. And you see me do this to Doug Christie, like, Doug, you getting drafted by the Houston Rockets. And so they said, next thing you know, David Stern says, Robert Horry. I'm like, well, you got it wrong, but I'm loving this moment.
Oh, he called you. Yeah, it's not Horry.
And so I got drafted, and it was the best moment ever. But even though it was the saddest moment because I had to celebrate it by myself, but I made a really, really good friend out of this situation by the late, great Jerome Kersey. He was like, man, come hang out with me. He was playing for the Portland Trail Blazers then, and I hung out with him and Lil Wilcox, and that support right there was always been.
You were in the fraternity.
Big. Yeah, because that's a brotherhood to talk about the fraternity. And there's a lot of stories of guys that take you under their wing that you never thought that would take you under their wing because they know good people when they see them.
And you went to the perfect spot, Rob.
Yes.
I mean, the Houston Rockets were a great team with great veterans. I mean, you played with unbelievable characters of this game and some of the greats of this game. When you think of Clyde, when you think of Hakeem,
yes,
Kenny Smith, who else were some of your best friends? Sam Cassell, Mario Elie, X-Man, right? You played for Rudy T. And those first two championships come in 94 and 95. That's early in your career. I don't know if people know this, but you were actually traded after your rookie year. We talked a lot about it on air this year because you were traded to Detroit.
Correct.
It got rescinded. Mm-hmm. You came back, which was the best thing that ever happened to you. What do those titles and what do those years mean to you in Houston?
Man, those years, you think about it. First year, we go to the Western Conference Finals. We get beat by Seattle.
When you're a rookie, by the way.
I'm a rookie. And
you averaged 11 a game.
We win a championship my second year. And then in my third year, we win a championship, And you just think that this is how it's supposed to be. You should always win, right? And so you make great friends. I remember this was before cell phones, and Otis Thorpe was like one of my best friends. To this very day, we still talk and hang out. So we had just won a championship in 94. In 95, we start off bad. We ended that year ranked number 6 in the Western Conference.
By the way, the one time the 6th seed has won an NBA championship.
Yeah, and so we're playing. And all of a sudden, we get to the game, and then they were like, Otis, what are you doing here? Like, what happened? We just traded you for Clyde Drexler. And so we get Clyde. And Clyde, I love Clyde. Me and Clyde became really close. One of the greatest players that nobody ever talks about, Clyde the Glide. If you go Go back and look at some of his tape. The dude had a finger roll like no other. And I think when we drafted Clyde, I was looking around the locker room like, we don't have a power forward because we just got rid of Otis. You know, it's okay to have a backup that can play little minutes like Pete Chilcutt and Chucky Brown, but when it comes to starting, they're not starters. And I remember, I was like, okay, this is going to be a rough year. We have no, power forward. We get to the playoffs. And then in the second round, we playing the Phoenix Suns.
Is that when you go down 0-2?
We went down 3-1.
You went down 3-1.
We went down. The first year we went 94, we went down 2-0.
Yeah.
So we go down 3-1 to the Phoenix Suns. And so we look around the locker room. And this is one of the things that I hate. And it worked out for us. Like when a coach comes in the locker room like, well, we're getting our butts kicked. Let's change our lineup. And I'm like, oh, crap, here it comes. Robert, you're starting at power forward. I'm like, man, power forward against Charles Barkley? I'm like, come on. And so you got to think, and the reason is like, the only person on the team that could guard Charles was me. And he said, because you're fast enough, you're not strong enough, but we're going to get the double team there fast enough. And so I told this story to tell this. When anybody tell you they started small ball, they tell them a lie. The Houston Rockets started small ball when they moved me from the small forward to the power forward because of Charles Barkley. And we ended up coming back and winning that series and then winning another championship in 95 at me starting at power forward when I was actually a small forward. So kids, you're looking at the originator of small ball.
All right, I love that. And by the way, Rudy Tomjanovich, Rudy T, who was Rob's longtime coach, recently went into the Hall of Fame. And Rudy T, well-deserved by the way, but yes. Rudy mentioned the players that helped him get there. He talked about his long storied career. He talked about his titles. But he also said, which obviously hit home to a lot of us who are friends with Rob, who work with Rob, that Robert Horry should be in the Hall of Fame. And it was one of the great moments of all time because, number one, I wasn't the only one texting him. The phone blew up, but then you were actually nominated for the Hall of Fame. You're not in there yet, but as James Worthy always says, you will be one day. What did that mean to Robert Horry when Rudy T, your coach, your first coach in the league, stood up there, emotional, talking about his journey, and mentioned that you belong in the Hall of Fame?
So I never watched Hall of Fame, right? But I knew Rudy was going in, so I was there to support. I couldn't be.
Do you not watch it because you're not in it?
No, I just don't watch it.
Got it. Just checking.
So I watched it when people I know like Shaq went in. I watched. Yep. If it's someone I know I play with, I watch it. So I turn in, and all of a sudden Rudy goes on. He's just talking right. He's thanking all these players and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I look over at my wife, I'm like, this mother ain't saying nothing about me. I'm like, this is no lie. I was literally almost hurt. I was butt hurt. And I'm
tears
I'm like, what the heck? And then at the end, he says, I want to take this up. And then I started crying because it meant that much to me. And people always want to ask me, you play for a lot of great coaches. And I always tell them Rudy T was my favorite coach. And it's not because he said that in the Hall of Fame. It was before that because coaches mean a lot to me when they accept who you are and listen to you and acknowledge that you have an IQ in play. And that's what Rudy T had. He was from day one, he would talk to you and say, okay, what do you like as a player? What are you comfortable with? What you're not comfortable with? And to me, you got to get to know your players. You just can't run a system because the system might not fit the player and the player might not fit the system. So that's what I loved about him. But it was weird though. I wish my wife was here. She couldn't make it because she was at home packing. And she was like, it's okay. She should see me. She was talking about the legs. I was about to call Rudy. I said, yo, you forgot about me. And when he said that, man, I started crying. And then everybody in the crowd started clapping. And then they showed Tim Duncan sitting over there. I said, this is why I don't like your ass in the first place. He wasn't clapping. I'm like, dude, I saved your ass in 2005.
You won 2 titles.
Get your ass up and clap. And he didn't clap. So I said, okay, see, now you see why I don't like you. And so.
Well, by the way, you will be in the Hall of Fame one day, and you and I will rage when that day comes, and I will be there with you.
We're going to rage for a long time.
We're going to rage for a long time. And by the way, when you do get in, you're coming back to the Surf Club. Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Should I have my Hall of Fame party here?
Yes, you know. Alan, CB, can we do that? By the way, this next segment, my friend Jeff Miller, he's out there, and Matt Muir and CB, we're on a text chain. We talked about what to open with you, and he thought this would be a good idea. But then I talked to you, and I thought maybe we'd work up to it. But this segment right here is called "Fuck Danny Ainge," because that's how Rob feels. That's how we all feel. No, I'm just kidding. We're all Laker fans here, and Danny Ainge obviously played for the Boston Celtics. But Danny Ainge actually holds a special place in my heart, because if it wasn't for Danny and Rob throwing the towel into Danny's face, which has famously been shown for the last 30 years on TV, he would not have gotten traded to the Lakers. The Lakers wouldn't have won 3 championships. I wouldn't have partied my ass off in my 20s. So Rob was a big part of my youth. We would have never met if it wasn't for Danny Ainge. So I want you, and this story has been told on podcasts and stuff, but Rob, I want you to tell this audience, because there are some details about this story that people just don't know. How did this go down? How did you get traded, and what did you do when you finally got to LA?
So what happened was I just told you a story how we came back from 3-1 to beat the Phoenix Suns. But within that series, Danny Ainge took an opportunity to do something very terrible. Like, you know how you close with some of your teammates?
He was playing for the Suns,
yeah, he was playing for the Suns. And you really close with certain teammates. And I was really close with Mario Elliott. Like, Mario was my boy. And so you go back and you see the clip where Danny Ainge runs to take the ball out. And he rears back. And backstory, Danny Ainge was drafted as a baseball player. Need I say more?
He's got an arm, plays for baseball.
So he came back and he just reared back and hit Mario dead center in the middle of the face. And Mario was better than me because he showed enough restraint where he charged him, but he didn't do anything. He did not hit him or anything like that. So moving forward, so we get traded to the Suns. Sam Cassell and I were walking through the hallways with Danny. He had just did a press conference and he was talking about, this is, I hit Mario in the face with the ball on purpose. And from that moment, I was like, I don't like you. I didn't like you then, I really don't like you now. And so now Cotton, he says, you guys suck, I'm not coaching anymore, I'm quitting. And Danny Ainge becomes the head coach. And so now Danny Ainge is like starting me, and all of a sudden we get ready to go back to Houston. As an athlete, we all got egos, right? So we're going back to Houston, Danny Ainge becomes the head coach. Danny Ainge decides to make a change in the lineup. And what was that change? Me. He puts me on the bench, and I just wanted to be introduced so that I can get my love for winning 2 championships for the Rockets. And that's when it started getting worse. It started getting really bad. And then we would practice one day, and I would set picks, and he had to practice one day because the Suns were soft. You get a hangnail, like, I can't practice today. I got a little tickle in my throat, I can't practice today. And so I'm like, this is why we come back and beat y'all, because y'all all soft in it. And so what you talk about culture. He's like, you got to come in through the hard times and work through that. And so he had to practice, and I was just lighting him up one day. One time I hit him so hard, he hit the wall and fell to the floor. I'm like, he said, if you set screens like that in the game, we might win a game. I'm like, you don't play me, remember? And so, long story short, we get to Boston. I get a dunk. I hit a 3. I block a shot. The next thing you know, he subs me. I'm like, dude, I'm playing good. I was like, he says, go sit your ass down. So I walk to the end of the bench. I'm like, did he just tell me to sit my ass down? Oh, no, hell, he didn't. So I go down there and say a lot of F words and a lot of other cuss words I'm not going to say. And then I got up and said, F you, and I threw the towel in his face. And then, do y'all want to hear the rest of the story? Okay. So, at the end of the game, so we in the locker room, and Paul Silas was one of the assistant coaches, and he was like, it's all right, Rob, calm down. I said, no, this mug said he traded away Michael Finley, Sam Cassell, AC Green to give me more minutes, and all of a sudden I'm playing great, and he pulled me, F him. And then, so we get in the locker room, then Joe Klein comes like, we don't do that type of shit around here. And so I stand up and say, hey, yeah, because you're a bunch of fucking losers. And I'm like, and so.
You guys are getting real stories here, by the way.
And so.
The kids are like.
And then, so some other guys jump up. So you got to think about it. Now it's me, Chucky Brown, and Mark Brown. I don't know if y'all know who Mark Brown is. Mark Brown was one of the best enforcers in the NBA. So it was like the 3 of us against the whole Phoenix Suns team. And I was like, try something. I want you to try something. And then Paul Silas pulls me back to the back room. We in Boston, Danny Ainge's place. And he says, calm down, Rob. It's going to get better. I said, man, I was like, this is just a line. This is why this organization is soft. Y'all never win shit. I want out of here. And 2 days later, I get a phone call from Danny Ainge. And he's like, he said, I can remember like it was yesterday. Hey, Rob, what's up?
What's up?
I just want to let you know we're going to trade you. I'm like, good. He says, I hate to say this, but I just probably traded you to another championship. I was like, oh yeah? To where? We trading you to the Lakers. Okay, click. I hung up the phone.
Tell him what you did next, Rob.
I didn't want to hear no more. I called my best friend up and I said, man, get your ass here now. I loaded up the cars and we drove straight to LA. So that's what happened.
LA.
Drove straight to LA.
And 3 championships followed. A three-peat, 2000, 2001, 2002. Obviously, we'll get into Kobe and Shaq here in a little bit. You're playing with for Phil, Dr. Buss, just the Laker organization. And listen, they hadn't won since 87, 88, back-to-back, so it had been a 12-year run for them. What are those 7 years in LA mean to you? I mean, I know, listen, Houston, you have a home there. You lived there a lot of your life. It's a very special place. San Antonio, no one gives a shit. But LA, what are those 7 years? What do they mean to you, Rob?
Man, when you grew up a Laker fan, I don't know if y'all know that, but I grew up a huge Laker fan. I had the Magic Johnson poster in my dorm room in college. I was just a big Johnson fan. And then all of a sudden you get a chance to play for a great organization and you understand the history. If you know anything about sports, you always know the history of sports. And you talk about all the things that Dr. Buss started, from the Laker girls to courtside seats to, the Forum Club and all these things like that. And it made you want to play harder. It made you want to not, let a city down. And not that I didn't play hard for others, but when you play for an organization that has that history, you feel like you got to live up to that history. And I remember just stepping into the Laker uniform for the first time, and it just felt so good. It felt like it was like comfort food. It just felt comfortable, and it was just a marvelous feeling. And all of a sudden, you look around the locker room, you're like, damn, we got a good team. You got Shaquille O'Neal, Nick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, and Rick Fox, and it was just like, wow, we can do some damage. Unfortunately, we got swept by the Utah Jazz, and
So why did it? What in 2000 changed? Obviously, Phil comes in, Eddie's gone, Nick is gone. There's a couple new faces, but the core still remained. D-Fish is emerging. You're a big part of it. AC Green's on the team. But what was it? Was it the maturity of the group?
It was the veteran leadership. You got to think about you had Ron Harper to come in. He had just won, all the championships with the Chicago Bulls. You had AC Green. He had just won all, Showtime Lakers. And he had myself, and we just sat down. He said, yo, this is what we got to do. We got to look around. And then we had some organization. And that's the one thing that about Phil. He ran the triangle, and everybody thinks the triangle is so easy. I ran the triangle in Houston. We just call it 15 and get out of Dream's way. We just call it triangle, give it to Shaq and get out of the way. So it's just about movement and space, and that's what sports are about. You got to be in the right place at the right time, move here, move there. And I think for us, we finally got that. And of course, we had two of the best players in the game at the time with Shaq and Kobe, and it just flowed. You think about that year. It was just a fantastic year. Shaq wins the MVP. We do a lot of damage, best record in basketball. And it was just a great year. We just needed someone to put us in the right place, and it was fantastic.
I want to talk to you about that Game 7 because that game right there goes down as one of the greatest games in history. Actually, Matt and Jeff, raise your hands. I was actually with them that day and my wife, Jess. We were dating for about 5-6 months. We were all together in Mexico coming back. Jess and I went our separate ways to watch the game. They watched the game. Everyone here that was a longtime Laker fan knows where they were during that Game 7. And for those of you that don't know, the Lakers were on the verge of winning their first championship in 12 years. They have a 3-1 lead on Portland, who was by far the next best team in the league. Whoever won that series.
They might have been the one. Yeah. We were 100, they were 99.9.
Yeah, it was that close.
Like my Adam Keefe contract.
Yeah. Just like the Adam Keefe contract. Great point, Rob. And the Lakers are up 3-1. They split the first two. Lakers go back and get that one in Portland. They get those two in Portland, which was huge, right? So you go up 3-1. Come back to LA. I was at that game. We lost Game 5. Go back to Portland for Game 6. We lose. Come back to LA for Game 7, and it is absolute panic. It is a panic in the city, and Portland is up 15, and they are literally kicking our ass for about almost 3 full quarters. You hit a big shot. B. Shaw hits that big shot. Lakers down 15. You come back and win that game. That's the famous Kobe to Shaq lob. What was it about that game, that moment? Because if you don't have that moment, Rob, who knows if it's a three-peat?
Yeah, because you know who the best teams in basketball when you play them. Portland was like, we get past Portland, there's nobody can stop us. And for us, it was like a shell shock. Like they got into a rhythm, and Scottie Pippen became more vocal. And if you go back and you watch the game, Scottie, he would run our plays for us because he had spent 20 years in the triangle, right? So he was running our plays for him. Bonzi Wells started playing really well for them. Steve Smith started playing.
Sabonis, the team was loaded.
Sabonis. I'm telling you all the people in this team, like, wow, Damon Stoudemire. It was so many, and it was like all of a sudden we started getting body blow, and it was getting to a point where you're like, yo, man, we got to figure something out. And we got to a point where we got in the locker room and said, man, we down, man. You know what? Who cares? Just go out and play, man. We've been here before. We know how to do it. And you watch our attitude in the second half. We totally changed. We just, if you punch us, we just smile at you. We just come back at you. You punch us, we smile even harder. And the next thing you know, we win in this ball game. And it's hard to really describe that feeling. It's a confidence, it's a cockiness, and it's the ultimate belief in your teammates. You think about, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to stick to our knitting. We're going to give it to Shaq. Shaq, dominate. Don't do that fadeaway stuff, drop step, monkey dunk on them, do all this kind of stuff. Kobe, just get to the rack. It's like we became more precise with our movements. And if you watch today's NBA, you watch a lot of guys, all you see is this. You're like, am I watching salsa or what? They're out there dancing and just going straight to the hole. And so for me, you started going to the hole, being precise, and that became efficiency, and that became the way we won that game.
And then in 2001, of course, they backed it up, which in my opinion, one of the great all-time teams in basketball. They went 15-1, absolutely rolled the 76ers. In the finals, lost one game, which happened to be game one. It was the famous Iverson stepping over Ty Lue. But that team, Rob, goes down in history. People say 96 Bulls. You're going to put the KD Steph Warriors. You're going to put the 87 Lakers. Some people say 86 Celtics. Fuck that. Obviously, for me, 71-72 Lakers. No, I'm just kidding. The 86 Celtics were right there. Where do you put your 01 team?
I put us number one. And not just because I'm on it. I just think if you watch how Shaq played in that playoffs, how Kobe played in that playoff, you think about it. We swept everybody and lost game one. It wasn't like, what's the guy named Donaghy? What's the guy who got in trouble for betting?
Donaghy or
whatever his name was.
Yeah.
It don't matter.
The ref.
It wasn't nothing refs could do
Everyone
because
knows,
we were so dominant. I mean, we would come out and just kick your butt. And so when we got to that first game and we lost it, I think that's the first time Phil comes in the locker room and don't say anything because he could see how mad we were.
Time out real quick. I got to show some love to the spot that fuels these fireside chats, the North Grill at the California Surf Club. You ever sit oceanside with a plate of tri-tip, a local brew, and the sun calling game over on your day? That's the vibe. Great food, even better people, and the kind of views that make you forget what day it is. If you haven't posted up at the North Grill yet, you're missing the soul of this whole thing.
You could have probably fried an egg on everybody's forehead.
Was he the master of that, knowing when to say something?
Yeah, he was totally master. He knew the temperature of the team. He knew, the temperature of the players, and he just knew how to talk to everybody but me. That's another story for another time. And so
is that because he trusted you? That's what I had heard later.
That's for the end of the day. So, okay, I got to tell the story.
Yeah.
All right, so, everybody it gets called into, when feels like the triangle, we got to take a test. He literally gave us a test. You had to take the test, and he wanted to come into his office, and he'd go over the test. And so every time Phil called me in, Phil called me in, Phil called me in. I'm like, okay, playoff starting, end of the season. Phil never called me in. I'm like, what the hell? Did he forget about me? So fast forward, I found out that Phil, he didn't feel like he needed to call me in because he trusted me. He felt like
someone else told him.
Yeah, and it's like he felt like I was, one of the smartest players on the team. And speaking of smartest players on the team, after I retired, I went to go see the Lakers and the Rockets play because I was living in Houston. I took my middle son with me because he had just started playing basketball. And of course, as most sons do, won't do anything I tell him to do. He looking at me like I never played basketball in my life. I'm trying to get him pointers.
I have daughters like that. Sorry.
And so I go in the locker room. We're talking to Derek Fisher and Kobe. And Kobe looks at, Cam, what's up, Cam? How you doing, man? I ain't seen you in a while. You playing basketball? Cam like, yep. Your dad is one of the smartest players I ever played with. Kobe tells Cameron, and Cameron looks at me like, this guy? I'm like, dude, really? And so after that, I had the best 3 weeks of training in my life. My son listened to everything I said, and all of a sudden, after 3 weeks was up, he's like, Dad, you don't know shit.
Thank you, Kobe.
Thank you, Kobe. But it was just weird how great we were, and those 3 championships, man.
I mean,
it was amazing.
Obviously, yeah, 2002 on that same text chain I was telling you about before, the shot was going around today, and everyone remembers 2002. It's one of those moments. I always say, for the older people here, it's like the Kirk Gibson home run in 1988 for the Dodgers in Game 1 of the World Series against the Oakland A's. It's Freddie Freeman a year ago, the grand slam to win the game in Game 1. It's big shot, Bob's shot against the Sacramento Kings. And to set the stage for those of you that don't know, maybe, Lakers are going for a three-peat. No one had ever done it for years and years since like the 50s and 60s until the Bulls did it. And then the Bulls did it twice. And now the Lakers were about to do it with Kobe, Shaq, and Rob. And they were actually down. I mean, Sacramento was the best team, best record that year. So they had home court. And they were up 2-1 in LA at Staples. And they were about to go up 3-1 going home and basically wrapping up the series. There was 10 seconds left. Lakers are down 99-97, okay? I don't know what the play was, Rob, because I'm going to have you take it through us, but Kobe drives and kind of hits the rim. Shaq short arms it. Vlade taps it out to Rob. Rob is just standing right there at the top of the key. He grabs it like he is absolutely chilling, and he just hits the 3 in Weber's face, and he just puts his arms down, and he does a little strut while everyone is going absolutely apeshit crazy. You got people say it's the loudest Staples Center's ever been. It was voted on on their 20-year anniversary. That was your shot. You had that Will Smith look going on, like you were just so cool and you knew it was going in. So just take us through kind of that moment when that ball got tapped out to you. And by the way, I know you've been asked this, but what the hell were you doing out there? Why weren't you in getting a rebound?
So great coaches have plays you do not run during the season. And so this is the one play that Phil loves to run. I'm sorry. Y'all heard every curse word tonight. So this is the actual name of the play. The play is called What the Fuck. And so he's what the fuck. So the object is I take the ball out, I throw it to Kobe, I go over and set a screen. So of course Kobe has Doug Christian. We all know Doug Christian was a great defender. So I go over to try to set the screen. Kobe takes off before I get there. So if you see me, I jump out the way because if I don't, offensive foul. So Kobe has him beat, has direct line to the basket. Kobe shoots a little floater. He misses it. And then Chat short arms and tips it, and Vlade tips it out to me. And the reason that I'm standing at the top of the key, because as you go back and look out throughout the years, even the shot that I missed that cost me $6 million, Kobe throws me the ball. So if you watch, Kobe has his man beat, Chris Webber goes with him. So I'm like this, hey, I'm Big Shot Bob, I'm a game winner, throw it out. And so I'm watching, he doesn't come out. And then when he misses a shot, and people are like, why did you go in the rebound? Because the part of you says, I'm the one at the top, I'm not supposed to go in there, even though it's the end of the game, I'm just standing out there. And of course, I also thinking like, well, if they can't get it, they're taught to tip the ball out. And they tip that mug out here to me, it's over. Yeah. And so Vlade tips it out to me, and it hits me perfect where I like to catch the ball like right in the bread basket, and I rose up and knocked down a 3. And it wasn't my only 3 of the game. So this is what I tell people all the time. If you run some plays for me during the game, I don't have to make big shots at the end of the game. That's all I'm saying. Because I had just made 2 threes from the corner, and they went away from me again. I'm like, dude, Phil, run me some plays, dog. We won't have to be in these situations. We probably beat people by 15 to 20 points. But, you have to, but I don't mind because, hey, I got a nickname that's made me famous.
Yeah, by the way, who remembers? I mean, everyone remembers where they were when that shot went down? And it was the greatest thing ever because Vlade said, like, yeah, lucky or whatever. And he goes, and then they interviewed Rob and they told him what Vlade said. And Rob said, maybe he should read the paper because I've been making that shot my whole career. By
the way, you know what a newspaper is? Okay. They don't have that anymore. So
now it's called Instagram. So interesting. I read an article the other day on Freddie Freeman's home run. And it talked about how Freddie could walk around the city last couple years and he could not go unnoticed, but he could mind his own business, do his own thing. He hits that home run and how it changed his life and his relationship with the city. He even, after the Palisades fires, he went to a breakfast with some of the members of the community that lost their homes. And he was talking to an older gentleman that said, I stopped drinking the day you hit the home run. He's like, I was with my boys, and all they wanted to do the next day was play baseball. And I'm usually too hungover, and I have not had a sip of alcohol since you hit that home run. And Freddie talked about what that meant to him. So my question to you, Rob, is this relationship with you have with the city of Los Angeles, complete opposite of the one you have with Sacramento. They hate your ass there. But the relationship you have with Los Angeles, was it because of that shot? Like, did that shot propel you to a different?
Oh, it took me to, first championship, oh yeah, Shaq, Kobe. Second championship, yeah, Shaq, Kobe. Third championship, hey man, you won that championship, dog. It wasn't for you. So it changed, and that's the first time I felt love. Go back to when I made the shot, and if you watch the shot from above, it still gives me goosebumps to this day when everybody jumps up at the same time, and you see the little ball boy streak across the court, and then you see Mark Masson saying, "You told me we was going to win this game," because I told Mark, another Stanford guy, I said, "Listen, we moved down, 23? I told him, I said, don't worry about it, we got this." And he looked at me like, "What? We got this?" Because there's a picture of us walking on the court. And people don't know this. I'm looking at Shaq, says, "We're going to win this shit." I'm telling him that. And everybody's got, they got the concerned look on my face. And for me, I just believed in us. I thought we were that good, that we could overcome anything. Of course, we overcame that game. And you can see Mark Masson saying, "You told me we was going to win this game. You told me we was going to win this game." And so we won it. And for me, confidence is so important in sports. Confidence is so important whatever you do. You have to believe in yourself. A lot of people say athletes are cocky, but you gotta be. If you don't believe in yourself, who will? And so for me as an athlete, you gotta be cocky, you gotta be confident, you gotta, say it with your chest, whatever you do. And that's what, when you walk out on the court, you gotta say it with your chest, "Oh, we're gonna win this." And then you'd be amazed at how infectious that is. The next time, "Oh, we're gonna win this? Rob thinks we're gonna win it. Oh, we're gonna win this." And so that's how we were. We won that game. We just believed in one another, and we won it. And after that, sky's the limit.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. And it's something I had in my notes that I wanted to ask you because of all the years we've been together. I obviously know you real well. You become a very dear friend of mine. But when I think of your career and I think of what you accomplished and the type of player you are, you always had to have a little chip on your shoulder, right? When you're drafted 11th, the guys that are drafted ahead of you. You just mentioned it. You have to have that confidence in yourself to succeed at a professional level. But you had the innate ability to be able to put ego aside from scoring 38 a game in high school and then in college being MVP and all SEC and all of that, to becoming a guy that plays a role to help a team win. AC Green started in 2000, right? It was Horace Grant, I believe in 01, Samaki Walker in 02, but when it got to the playoffs, you started actually games. You were playing 37 minutes a game. I was looking it up. But Rob, you were able to put ego aside, but able to have confidence in yourself that you're able to make big moments. How were you able to adopt that mentality?
You just got to believe in yourself. And for me, I always thought I was the best player to step on the court, and I'm like, okay, you might not run no plays from now. And then at the end of the game, the play I might not be the first choice, but I'm the second choice. So technically, the play is for me because the good teams don't let the first choice happen. And I just always believed in myself. I think it goes back to a moment in high school when we playing in a Christmas tournament, my high school's Christmas tournament. I get fouled. I go to the free throw line. I got to make 2 to tie it up. I make the first one, miss the second one, we lose the tournament. And I walk in the locker room and I'm looking at all my teammates and they're crying. I'm like, and I felt like it was because of me. I didn't do enough to win this game. And it wasn't me scoring, rebounding. It was getting them involved because all they did was defer to me. And you can't win games like that. You got to be a team. I got traded for that to Detroit for deferring the Dream, deferring the Clyde, So I had to do all that stuff. So I learned to just figure it out. What does this team need? One of the things I love to say is, I don't make the product, but I damn sure make the product better. And for me, it's like, okay, what do you need me to do? Okay, I'm gonna do that, we're gonna be better. And that was the one thing that I think with my IQ of the game and understanding who I was playing with, what I needed to do to make us better. And for me, I just believed in myself and know that I was smart enough to figure it out.
That's great stuff, Rob, and appreciate you sharing that. And listen, I always know it's hard to talk about Kobe, but I know it's also awesome to talk about Kobe. I know what your relationship was with Kobe. You and I had to do 4 hours of TV on that day where he and Gigi and the others tragically passed. But I know you always get asked about Kobe because you are one of the rare guys that saw Kobe really young.
Yes.
And you watched the maturation of Kobe. What was that like for you to see Kobe as a young player and then what he became 20 years later?
Well, the moment I knew Kobe was special was I had just got to the Lakers and we had finished a shoot around. And Kobe, when you tell a shoot around, it's called a walkthrough. So you should do what? Walk through, right? And so we running plays. He's like blowing through screens. Like, yo, dude, I'm your teammate. Hold on. You don't blow through screens like this doing a walkthrough. We walk. Well, I got to learn how to do it. I got to get over the screen. We got to go gain speed. We don't do this. I'm like, dude, look around. You're the only one going 100 miles per hour. So, and after we got through, I'm just sitting there and I'm, icing down. And he comes and sits next to me. He's like, tell me about Dream's footwork. I'm like, dang, you could ask me about my family and everything else, right?
He wants to know about
He wants to know about Dream's footwork. Was it that good? Tell me about. And he just wanted to know everything he could about every great basketball player. Think about it, he went to go work with Dream on his footwork. And for me, I played with a lot of great players, and nobody worked as hard as this dude. Man, we would joke with him. I know if you go back to like 2000, 2001, you remember Kobe couldn't shoot threes to save his life. But we used to play this game every day, and he would play with us, and we would like knock him out. He'd get mad. So we get into practice the next day. He on the other end shooting 1,000,000 threes. So, all right, we playing today? All right, we play. He gets beat again. And so now we notice that he's getting better, right? And so now one day he comes to play, and we like, you want to play today? Nah, we don't want to play. Come on, man, we want to play today. Like, nah, we ain't going to play. We don't feel like playing.
Maniacal.
We would mess with him, right? And then even on days we like, sometimes the second team would beat the first team. And the next day, he'd come out like, I'm getting my revenge today. And Phil like, all right, we're going to go up and down for the last 3 minutes. And we like, nah, coach, we don't want to do this. And like, no, we playing today. And coach like, nah, dude. No, I got to get my revenge. No, we ain't playing today. And we would just mess with him, right? We wouldn't even play. We were like, go ahead, get your buckets. Like, no, you got to play defense, right? He was that competitive where he would get mad that the second team would beat the first team. He would get mad at Shaq. He'd get mad at Harvey. He'd get mad at everybody, right? But at the end of the day, you love it, man, because if you don't want to compete, I just told you the Phoenix stories. They didn't want to compete, and that's why you don't win. You don't want to compete in practice because you got to make practice harder than the games. If you don't make practice harder than the games, you can't win championships.
You cannot win championships. I got to ask you this because I bet you've been asked a million times, but when you play in the Kobe and Shaq era, and if you lived here in Los Angeles, you are well versed in Kobe and Shaq and all the stories and what you heard. But when they were on the court together, Rob, they seemed to be able to know how to get it done, and their chemistry was second to none. I'd put them up against any duo. How would you describe being there, being a teammate? Like, obviously, there's stories that are true, not true, but how would you describe the Kobe and Shaq relationship?
I get asked that question a lot, and I tell people all the time, when you win a championship and you with your band of brothers, you normally hug the person you closest with first, right? I remember in Houston, the first person I hugged was Sam Cassell. When I got here, I think the first person I hugged was like Derek Fisher, Mitch Richmond. You ever notice that Shaq and Kobe are always the first ones to hug? You ever notice that?
Yeah, for sure.
Go back and look.
For sure.
And when the media would come to us and be like, yo, Kobe said this about Shaq, Shaq said this about Kobe. I'm like, what? Because they kept it professional. I don't know what was said outside of the locker room, but in front of us, there was never any beef. Mm-hmm. You think about it, there's some guys in the locker room, I've said the F word and get the F out of my face and walk out. But that never happened with us. I think this was the most fun I've had with a team because we were all around the same age.
Yeah.
So we had a lot, except for Kobe, he was way younger than us, but we all had a lot of fun. We were literally after practice sitting in the locker room for about an hour, ice down, just talk. You think about what teams do that.
Yeah.
Most time you putting your ice on, you in your car, riding home with ice bags on your car because you don't want to be around your teammates. But it was so much fun in that locker room. Rick and, Derek Fisher, Glenn Rice, Ron Harper with his stories of, MJ and listen to him tell the MJ. It was like Kobe was like taking notes when Hart would talk about playing with MJ. And, it was just amazing. And I don't know where the relationship got framed, but I will say this, they never said anything bad about one another to any of their teammates. It was
I think Laker fans love hearing that.
Yeah, it was. And I never could understand why it happened, and I didn't really care because I won 3 championships with them. So stay mad at each other, keep trying to outplay each other because that's gonna win us a chip.
I love that. You have more rings than Mike.
Yes.
Do you have a relationship with MJ?
No. He had this shirt that come out a couple of years ago. I don't know if you ever seen it. It says "One more ring than your favorite player." That's like my favorite shirt. I'm like, one more ring than your favorite.
Is he saying one more ring than Kobe and Magic?
I don't know who was saying it, but it came out. I don't know. Have any of y'all ever seen that shirt?
Oh, that's so
Google
good.
it. It says Mike has in the Jordan brands one more ring than your favorite player. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wear that shirt.
So he's never said anything to you. You just
I ran into him one time at doing All Star, and I was like, "What's up, MJ? How you doing?" And I said, "Man, why you never put me on the Jordan brand, man?" I said, "We got 7 rings." He said, "You only got 6. What's up with that?" You know,
he remembers that, Rob.
Yeah, but I do have a Michael Jordan story though. But it was so weird. I was in Houston one time, you know, and all of a sudden I get a phone and I'm like, Chicago, who the fuck is this? Excuse my language. And so I pick it up and it's MJ. He actually called me. I'm like,
never heard this.
Yeah, he was like, yo, Rob, I'm coming to town. I want to hang out somewhere. I'm like, you calling me? I'm like, yeah. He says, I heard you know all the hot spots. I'm like, yeah, I do. So you got to go to the car wash, which is on Montrose, and da-da-da-da-da. And so, I went, and he actually showed up. I'm like, so I actually had a one time to party with MJ in Houston, and I thought I was the greatest thing.
Was it fun?
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, we'll leave those stories behind.
And he never called me again after that. He used me.
Listen, I want to open this up, but I have so many more, so I'm going to cut it because I know we're getting out of time. But I want to open up so people have some questions. But like, where do you there's so many big shots when you really go through your career. Like 94, I'm reading them all in Western Conference Finals, and then in 95 you had the big shot in Game 3 that beats Orlando. You have all the ones for the Lakers. The underrated one is the one in Portland. It was that 0-1 I think, in Game 3 to win the series in the corner when Damon Stoudemire's throwing the towel in front of your face.
That was 2002.
2002, yeah, the end of the run. And then in 05, you have the big one against the Pistons. I want to say that's 2-2. That's Game 5 maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to beat with Rasheed Wallace hangs off you. You hit a big shot to win it. You had all these huge shots. Where do you rank them? Like, where does Big Shot rank the big shots?
Number one, of course, is 2002 with the Lakers. And the reason it's number one because you think about all those shots I made. Where were they? On the road. Oh, think about it. Every shot he just named was on the road. Yeah, except for the Orlando one. I don't really count. We was up 1. I just made it score 4. But, and I said this earlier, we all have egos. And to hear the Lakers fans chant my name other than Shaq and Kobe, the night it was Horry. And I hadn't heard my name chanted since high school when I used to come out the jungle of Horry. And I hadn't had my name chanted since then. And so it was a magical moment. And for me, you talk about every restaurant I went into, I didn't pay for anything for about 6 months. I go to Vegas, I drink for free. Every time. I even go to Vegas now. Right. Boy, you want me a lot of money. Let me buy you a drink. What you drinking? Macallan. I don't even drink Macallan. I try to order the most expensive thing on the menu just to see if they're going to pay for it. So, but it's just, that shot to me, man, and I think about all the great moments that happened in Staples Center. I think to me that's the second greatest moment. And to me, the greatest moment was Kobe's last game. And I just think
you and I were there.
Yeah, we
were doing the show.
To watch greatness do it one last time.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. And to me, that being a bunch, you think about the great organizations, that team up there in the other part of the cold country that wears green, and then the Lakers, and to do something fantastic for one of the ultimate organizations, and to probably be remembered forever because of that is fantastic. And I think, and I'm gonna backtrack. So you mentioned the Hall of Fame. And I don't know if I told you this, but we talk about the Hall of Fame. The only reason I want to go in the Hall of Fame is so the Lakers can retire my jersey, because that would mean more than anything. You think about, you grew up as a kid, watching Magic, watching Kareem, and all of a sudden now your jersey is hanging up there next to them, and nobody can ever wear number 5 again. Man, I might cry for 5 days, man.
Hold on, let's make him, everyone, Horry. You also get it at the Surf Club. Last thing for me, what's the most you ever laughed on TV?
So Geeter and I worked together, right, on Spectrum Sports.
13 years.
13 years. And I don't do every game. I only do 41 games. And so, and of course, when I'm not doing a game, I hate to say this, sometimes I don't watch because I'm doing other stuff. I had a kid in high school who got basketball games, played at Harvard Westlake, won 2 state championships. So I get back to work one day And everybody said, did you watch the show last night? I'm like, nope.
Yeah, we were in Memphis.
And I'm like, nope, I didn't. What happened? Man, some crazy shit happened last night. I said, what happened? Oh, we gonna play it for you. And so at the end, during halftime or something, they take the cameras and they fan in the crowd and show you different families.
And we're going to commercial break.
Yeah,
I'm
we're going
leading
to-
us out to break. Yeah.
We're going to commercial break. They said, oh, look, here's the Chris McGee family. And then, here's Tariq Black's family. And so all of a sudden, Chris goes, say hello to the Black family. And see, now I want y'all to think about that. We on TV. It's a white guy saying, say hello to the Black family.
You don't see the white guy. You just see 8 black people.
You see 8 black people sitting there. Tariq Black, his last name is Black.
His last name is Black.
His last name is Black. And so James looks down at Geeter and says, I always knew you were racist.
Dude,
So
I told my wife we'd probably get to this tonight, and she's like, tell me he's going to tell the
when
story.
they tell this story to me, man, I'm like, no, let me see it. I'm literally dying, crying, man. We about to come back on air, and I'm like this.
I've never seen him cry. He's literally
I'm crying.
crying.
It was the funny because you should see his face after he said, say hello to Black family. He's like,
So here's what
and he
happened.
catches
Here's what
himself,
happened.
oh,
Here's what
shit.
They're panning over to our big screen, so I'm no longer, and they're showing you inside the Memphis arena. And they always tell you what's coming in your ear. The producer says, there's this, and you just have to riff and say whatever. We're going to break, Lakers up, blah, blah, blah. There's blah, blah, blah. And he said, Tariq Black family. I go, say hello to the Black family. And I just was like, and I stopped, and it's just, there's just 8 black people. And I'm like, Tariq, and then commercial. And James looks over at me and goes, always fucking knew you were racist. And dude, he's laughing, crying, and I was mortified. And I spent the next literally 3 hours, called my boss, dude, oh my God, here's what happened. And I'm Twitter, like, please God, please God, please God, please God, please God. Nothing. I find out like a week later, there were 2 beat reporters for Lakers that were like, oh my God, we were at home watching, we weren't at the game. And we were laughing so hard, and I almost tweeted out, but thought, you know what? People might not understand it, so it never got out there. But when they showed him, they still show it today. It happened 11 years ago,
Hey.
but they still show it today.
Tee it up for him right now. No, I'm just kidding. But man,
Anyway,
it was,
that's the most I've ever seen him laugh.
It was, man, I'm not even gonna lie. I hadn't laughed that hard in years, and I just want to say it was so much fun that night. And I literally couldn't even talk, man. You know how you laugh so hard, all this is sore? It was literally sore for 2 days. I was laughing that hard. So
We have a lot.
Black family.
We have a lot of fun out there.
Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. It always means a lot when people want to hear my stories, and I have a lot more, so.
Yeah. Part 2 when he gets into the Hall of Fame. You down for that? Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it. Thank you, by the way. I know it's cold. Thanks for coming out here tonight.
Yes.
You guys are amazing. Appreciate it. Nicky Schneid standing up over there, Tall Paul. I appreciate that. Kirk Peters, Scotty B. A lot of great people out there. So thank you so much, guys, for coming.
This episode was marinated in good conversation and grilled to perfection, just like the food at the North Grill. Pull up, grab a drink, and we'll see you on the deck.